This is not just about burning calories or building visible strength. It's about correcting decades of poor posture, undoing damage from sedentary habits, and forging a resilient body that can handle daily tasks and unexpected challenges with ease. As this deep dive unfolds, each chapter will peel back the layers, from the hidden anatomy behind the swing to the science of spinal protection, from common mistakes to practical, evidence-based ways to integrate this powerful tool into real life. Each minute you spend learning today will bring you closer to a body that not only looks strong, but truly moves as nature intended, balanced, efficient, and pain-free. Watch the full video and you will see why kettlebell swings is so important to your health. Few exercises appear so deceptively simple, yet hold the potential to change the entire way the body moves, resists pain, and ages. The kettlebell swing is often perceived as just another gym routine, but within its arc of motion lies a powerful blueprint for total body transformation. Across just a single rep, the swing recruits over 600 muscles in a coordinated pattern that mimics natural primal movement. An explosive hip hinge, a braced core, and a stable spine all working in perfect synergy. To understand how the kettlebell swing transforms the body, one must first understand what goes wrong when the lower back is neglected. The lumbar spine, comprising 5 major vertebrae labeled L1 through L5, forms the foundational axis between the upper and lower body. It bears much of the body's weight while providing a delicate balance between stability and mobility. Yet for millions of adults, the lumbar region becomes a source of chronic discomfort. Studies consistently rank lower back pain as one of the leading causes of disability worldwide. A significant reason is the disconnection between the spine and the muscles that were designed to protect it. This includes the entire posterior chain, the network of muscles running from the base of the skull down to the heels. Key players in this chain include the spinal erectors, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and deep stabilizers of the core. Research by Dr. Stuart, a renowned spine biomechanist, emphasizes how a strong posterior chain reduces mechanical stress on the discs and joints. When these muscles weaken, the load shifts to passive structures, discs, ligaments, and facet joints, which were never meant to carry weight on their own. Over time, this imbalance fosters degenerative changes, nerve compression, and muscle guarding, a perfect storm for chronic pain. The problem is compounded by lifestyle factors: hours spent sitting with a flexed spine, minimal glute activation, and an over-reliance on the lower back to compensate for weak hips and hamstrings. This environment creates dysfunctional movement patterns, making even simple tasks like picking up groceries a risky endeavor for the spine. A strong, efficient posterior chain functions like a suspension bridge. It distributes load evenly, stabilizes each vertebra, and allows powerful movement without sacrificing control. But restoring this system requires more than isolated back extensions or endless crunches. It demands a movement that trains muscles to fire in unison, under load, and with precision. The kettlebell swing does exactly that, bridging the gap between passive anatomy and active, resilient function. From here, the natural question arises: how does this seemingly simple movement reconnect the chain and re-educate the spine to work with, rather than against, the forces of daily life? To answer that, we must look deeper into the mechanics of the swing itself, where explosive power meets controlled stability. The kettlebell swing is often misunderstood as a shoulder exercise or a squat variation. Yet its true power lies in a well-executed hip hinge. This fundamental movement pattern allows the hips to generate force, while the spine remains neutral and protected, a principle essential for anyone wanting to maintain spinal health over decades of daily movement. The hip hinge is not unique to the kettlebell swing. It is the foundation of safe bending and lifting mechanics in everyday life. When properly executed, the hips act as a hinge, folding backward while the spine stays in a strong, stable position. In this position, the gluteus maximus and hamstrings lengthen under tension, storing elastic energy that is later released explosively. At the bottom of the swing, the kettlebell moves behind the line of the body, creating a stretch in the posterior chain. The lifter's weight should remain balanced over midfoot, heels grounded, with the shins nearly vertical. This alignment minimizes shear forces on the lumbar discs, ensuring that the spine resists flexion and rotation. When the hips snap forward, that stored energy turns into dynamic power. The glutes contract forcefully, extending the hips and driving the kettlebell upward in an arc dictated by momentum, not by lifting with the arms. This powerful hip extension is where the swing trains real-life functional strength. Picking up a child, lifting a box, or rising from a seated position all rely on this same hinge mechanic. Biomechanical studies, including electromyography, EMG analyses, have demonstrated that the kettlebell swing produces significant activation of the gluteus maximus, biceps femoris, hamstring, and erector spinae while minimizing unwanted movement in the spine itself. This combination of dynamic lower body motion with isometric trunk stabilization builds what experts call dynamic stability, the ability of the spine to remain stable while the limbs generate force. Unlike traditional lifts that compress the spine under vertical load, the swing generates horizontal forces that challenge the muscles to resist collapse and flexion. In practice, this means the deep core stabilizers, such as the multifidus, transverse abdominis, and obliques, must brace throughout the movement to protect the spine from sudden shifts in load. This bracing reflex transfers seamlessly to daily activities that often lead to injury, such as sudden twists or awkward bends. A 2012 study by Dr. Stuart found that properly performed kettlebell swings produce high posterior chain engagement with relatively low spinal compression, making it an effective tool for building back resilience without overloading vulnerable structures. In the context of functional fitness, this means the swing does more than strengthen muscles in isolation. It retrains the body to move as an integrated system, hips driving force, spine resisting movement, core bracing in anticipation of load. This synergy rewires the nervous system to use the strongest muscles for the job while protecting weaker areas, especially the lumbar region. In the long run, mastering the hip hinge through swings rewrites harmful bending patterns ingrained by years of poor posture and sedentary habits. It creates a resilient, efficient movement blueprint that the body will default to when lifting, pushing, or pulling in the real world. Understanding how the swing reinforces this powerful, hip-driven mechanic naturally leads to a critical layer of spinal health. The unique balance of isometric strength and dynamic stability that shields the back from the strains of life's unpredictable forces. Watch the video till the end because the last topic will surprise you. And don't forget to discover more tips in our next article and join our community. Stay healthy and focused. Watch your free workout videos and get started today. At its core, the kettlebell swing is a paradox. It is both explosive and controlled, both dynamic and static. This is where its value for spinal protection becomes clear. While the hips and lower limbs generate momentum, the trunk must remain rigid to transfer force safely. This blend of dynamic motion and isometric bracing is what distinguishes the swing from static back extensions or isolated core drills. Electromyography, EMG studies have shown that while the prime movers, the glutes and hamstrings, perform the hip extension, the deep stabilizers of the core maintain a consistent contraction throughout the swing cycle. The multifidus and erector spinae resist unwanted spinal flexion. The transverse abdominis, often called the corset muscle, wraps the spine with tension, while the internal and external obliques control rotational forces. Together, these muscles create what Dr. McGill describes as a muscular girdle, providing stiffness that protects the spine from buckling under load or shearing forces. This isometric control becomes especially vital when fatigue sets in. Without trained endurance in these stabilizers, the spine is left vulnerable at the exact moment the lifter's hips are at peak force production. Importantly, this bracing effect does not rely on artificial supports like belts or machines. It is the body teaching itself to recruit the right muscles at the right time with the right intensity. This neuromuscular coordination translates directly into safer, more efficient movement in daily tasks. Consider common activities like shoveling snow, carrying groceries, or lifting awkward furniture. These tasks rarely involve perfect conditions. The swing's unique combination of force and stabilization prepares the body to resist unexpected twists, bends, or shifts in weight. Furthermore, this repetitive bracing builds muscular endurance, crucial for those whose jobs or lifestyles demand sustained postural strength. Over time, this means fewer moments of giving out or sudden tweaks that send people searching for pain relief. Equally important is the psychological benefit. People who swing regularly become more aware of their posture and bracing mechanics, even when not training. This motor control carries over subconsciously, reducing the likelihood of poor movement patterns resurfacing. Thus, the swing does more than strengthen. It reconnects the mind with the body's innate capacity for self-protection, a foundational step for anyone seeking to rebuild or preserve a healthy spine. But what does all this mean for those already struggling with nagging lower back pain or the fear that any new movement might make things worse? The answer lies in how the swing restores function through safe, progressive practice. For those living with chronic lower back pain, the mere idea of a dynamic, hip-driven exercise can feel intimidating, even risky. Yet when taught and executed properly, the kettlebell swing becomes one of the most accessible, functional tools for breaking the cycle of pain, weakness, and fear of movement. The science is clear. Chronic back pain is rarely the result of a single event or structural defect. Instead, it emerges from years of disuse, poor movement patterns, and muscle imbalances that shift load onto passive structures. Inactivity and avoidance, while initially tempting, often worsen the underlying weakness that fuels pain in the first place. This is where the kettlebell swing offers a different path. It bridges the gap between static rehabilitation and real-world movement. Its rhythmic, hip-driven pattern encourages the glutes and hamstrings to fire powerfully, muscles that often shut down when pain takes hold. At the same time, the isometric contraction of the trunk muscles stabilizes the spine without excessive flexion or rotation. Research has shown that safe, graded exposure to loaded hip hinges can reduce pain sensitivity by desensitizing overprotective neural pathways. A 2015 study in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research demonstrated that participants with low back pain who performed kettlebell swings under professional supervision experienced significant improvements in posterior chain strength and reduced pain perception. Equally important is the swing's predictable pattern. Unlike unpredictable movements in daily life, the swing's repetition allows the nervous system to rebuild confidence and trust in the spine's capacity to handle load. Each rep reinforces correct mechanics, neutral spine, braced core, explosive hips, while gradually strengthening tissues that support the lumbar region. For beginners or those in pain, the key is progression. Starting with simple hip hinge drills using a dowel or light band, progressing to deadlifts with a kettlebell, focusing on posture and bracing, then adding the swing pattern in small sets, ensuring full control of the eccentric, backward, and concentric forward phases. Proper coaching is critical here. Incorrect form, such as squatting the swing or excessively flexing the spine, can aggravate symptoms rather than improve them. A trained eye helps spot subtle errors, adjust stance, and build confidence step by step. Another overlooked benefit is the psychological shift. When individuals see themselves generating force from the hips without pain, fear gives way to empowerment. This mindset shift has ripple effects in daily life, encouraging healthier movement habits that persist outside the gym. When integrated into a comprehensive strength and mobility plan, the kettlebell swing becomes more than just an exercise. It becomes a functional insurance policy for a spine that needs both stability and freedom to move. Yet this safe path can quickly turn into frustration or even setbacks if the movement is rushed or done improperly. The next step is to understand the common pitfalls that sabotage the swing's benefits and how to avoid them. No exercise is immune to misuse, and the kettlebell swing is no exception. One of the main reasons people fail to unlock its transformative potential is that they focus on intensity before mastering technique. This more is better mindset often leads to the very injuries the swing is meant to prevent. The first and most frequent mistake is squatting the swing. When the knees bend excessively and the torso drops vertically, The swing turns into an awkward hybrid of a squat and front raise. This misalignment shifts load away from the hips and places undue stress on the lower back and shoulders. The second error is lifting with the arms. The kettlebell should feel weightless at the top of its arc, floating upward through momentum, not muscular effort from the shoulders. When people actively pull the bell with their arms, they disrupt the natural force transfer from hips to bell, creating shoulder strain and unstable movement. A third issue is hyperextending the spine at the top of the swing. Many lifters mistakenly lean back, thinking it adds power. In reality, this overextension compresses the lumbar vertebrae and can irritate facet joints. A proper swing finishes with the hips locked out and the spine neutral, tall and proud, but not leaning back. Equally common is lack of core engagement. Without a braced trunk, the force of the swing creates micro-movements in the spine that accumulate stress over time. A strong exhale at the top, combined with a conscious abdominal brace, locks the rib cage and pelvis together, turning the torso into a stable unit. Lastly, many beginners choose a kettlebell that is either too heavy, compromising form from the start, or too light, failing to provide enough feedback for proper hip drive. Finding the just right load allows the hips to work dynamically, while the arms and shoulders stay relaxed. Addressing these mistakes requires mindful practice and often the guidance of a qualified coach. Filming swings from the side, using mirrors, or working with tactile cues, like placing a band around the hips to encourage the backward hinge, can reinforce proper mechanics. Above all, remember that the swing's benefits compound only when each rep reinforces good habits. It is better to perform fewer, high-quality swings than to chase numbers with sloppy form. In this way, the swing becomes a lifetime tool for building a body that moves with strength and grace. With mistakes out of the way, the next step is to see how swings can be strategically woven into real-world training routines that strengthen the body while respecting its limits. Once the kettlebell swing is performed with sound mechanics, its integration into a training plan can elevate functional strength in practical, sustainable ways. Unlike many isolated exercises, the swing naturally complements both strength and conditioning programs. Its versatility means it can be used as a warm-up, a main lift, or a metabolic finisher, depending on an individual's capacity and goals. One effective strategy is to pair swings with movements that reinforce postural endurance. For example, a superset of swings and planks enhances core bracing under both dynamic and static conditions. Alternatively, combining swings with goblet squats balances hip hinging with knee-dominant patterns, covering a broader movement spectrum. In the context of busy lives, the swing's efficiency is unmatched. A short focused session, such as 5 sets of 20 swings, can deliver cardiovascular and muscular benefits in less than 15 minutes. This makes it especially valuable for adults managing work, family, and other commitments. For older adults, maintaining power is crucial, as research shows that power declines faster than strength with age. The kettlebell swing uniquely addresses this, training explosive hip extension in a low-impact way. Regular practice preserves not just muscle, but the ability to move quickly, an essential factor in fall prevention and daily safety. Equally important is the swing's ability to break sedentary cycles. A few sets of swings between desk sessions or during TV breaks can counteract prolonged sitting, reactivating the glutes and opening tight hips. The swing is not a magic bullet, but when thoughtfully integrated into a balanced routine, it acts as a bridge between strength, mobility, endurance, and real-world function. It builds the capacity to lift, bend, twist, and move with confidence, qualities that define true resilience as we age. Yet before adding swings to a regular program, it is critical to know exactly where to start and how to advance safely, especially for those with different levels of strength or mobility. For beginners, particularly those over 40 or returning from injury, regressions and progressions are the guardrails that ensure long-term success. A rushed start almost always leads to frustration or re-injury. Regressions begin with the basic hip hinge. Using a dowel along the spine teaches alignment, head, upper back, and tailbone in a straight line. Once this is mastered, the deadlift with a kettlebell introduces load while reinforcing posture. Next, the pendulum swing drill teaches the feel of the kettlebell moving behind and in front of the body without demanding full power from the start. This step allows the nervous system to get comfortable with momentum and timing. Progressions build from there. Increase reps and sets gradually, respecting fatigue. Use a slightly heavier bell only when form remains crisp. Integrate double arm swings before experimenting with one-arm variations. For those managing lower back discomfort, shorter sets with extended rest, allow the stabilizers to recover while reinforcing perfect technique. Working with a certified coach, even for a few sessions, can make the difference between years of benefit and setbacks. In short, safety and mastery are inseparable. They ensure the swing remains a tool for growth, not a cause of concern. So with the right approach, the kettlebell swing becomes more than a lift. It becomes a catalyst for a stronger, pain-resilient body. When done properly, the kettlebell swing is one of the simplest yet most profound movements for building a stronger, more resilient body at any age. It teaches the hips to generate force, the spine to resist unwanted motion, and the mind to trust the body's capacity again. For adults between 30 and 70, these benefits go beyond the gym. They show up in the ease of getting out of a chair, the freedom to lift groceries without fear, and the confidence to play with grandchildren without hesitation. But the swing is not just about muscles. It's about reclaiming the natural movement patterns modern life often steals from us. It restores the body's blueprint for safe bending, lifting, and moving with strength and grace. No matter where you start, whether you are an athlete looking to enhance power or someone rebuilding after pain, remember, technique comes first. Progress slowly, listen to your body. And if you like this video, you'll also enjoy this one that's appearing on your screen now. I'll see you there.